Hey people, welcome to the channel. This video is going to be the top 5 best survival knives made in Europe. Believe it or not, this was surprisingly hard. There's some excellent options out there. I just narrow it down to 5 based on the brands that happen to be some of the best out there, some of the models that I think work very well, but this is in no way the final answer to the question. If you have a different opinion or you think, oh, you forgot about this brand or this model, leave your comments below. I'd love to listen to that. In fact, I do that myself because I have at least 3 honorable mentions here that I like to include. Before I go on, as always, if you want to learn more about realistic survival and preparedness, this is what I've been doing for a long time. You have my books as well, besides the channel, Surviving the Economic Collapse, 3 Survival Skills, a ton of valuable information condensed in these 2 books. You will have the links there in Amazon, and I'll leave some links for the knives that I'll be talking about in this video. I think that the first one is, no one will argue with me on this one, Mora. And I go with a classic Mora clipper. How could you say otherwise? Mora has been doing knives for a very long time. These are made in Sweden. These are extremely simple, cheap, reliable, well-made, a design that has proven itself throughout time. The famous Puko blade and the Scandi grind, it is sharp, it carves well, it cuts well, it has a very narrow, pointy tip. So if you think of all of those things, how comfortable it is in hand, again, how incredibly, ridiculously lightweight it is, and yet the construction, it makes for a nice, sturdy knife. And at this price, you can buy a bunch of these and throw these in your bug out bag, in your survival kit. You keep one in the car. You can afford to do that, and you're not compromising on having some cheapo, made in China, no brand knife. No, these are Mora, made in Sweden. I personally go with stainless steel, and there's a bunch of other models. They have the heavy duty model, the bushcrafter, and a bunch more. But I think that this is the best representation of the brand in terms of functional, minimalist, yet super useful knife. Very hard to beat. Let's go left to right. The other one that I'm going to bring out here is Glock. Everyone knows what a Glock knife is, and maybe a little bit in contrast with a more bushcrafty and more of a cutting tool idea of your Mora clipper, you have the Glock knife, the Glock bayonet knife. It is, of course, made by the same company that makes the famous Glock pistol. Actually, these came before the Glock pistol. Glock was making this knife before they got. Glock is originally a knife company, if you want to look at it that way. They made they did a number of other things in plastic, and that's where they got their teeth cut in the art of making this injected molded plastic of superior quality. But going back to the knife, it is a bayonet knife. It is a military knife. The idea is having something that is narrow, long, and very pointy because, yeah, again, a bayonet knife. But if you look at the sheath of the knife, how minimalist it is, how impossibly sturdy and tough it is, how simple and yet how functional it is. Now, it's not the best heat treatment or even the best blade geometry for cutting. Again, you can put a decent edge on it, and it's $10.95 heat treated to the something that in the American market it would be an outcry about. 55 Rockwell, that's butter. Well, no, it's not. You need to sharpen it more often, but it makes for a very tough blade. You can beat on these things a heck of a lot, and yet they will just hold on. You will have to sharpen it more often, but yeah, fantastic utility, fantastic military knife, and I think it does very well for a survival knife as well. But it's more of the survival knife, leaning a little bit more on the militaristic, more on the tactical, more on the sharp pry bar sort of tool than the, a very sharp cutting tool exclusively. The next one is maybe a knife you've seen before, but maybe not nearly as popular as the other one. These are the BPS knives made in Ukraine. Right, a Ukrainian manufacturer that makes this knife under 30 bucks, under 40 bucks. Again, I'll leave the links there below. Pretty sure it's well under 40 bucks, and for that money you get a very nice leather sheath. You have a very solid fire steel, which combines beautifully here with the handle, in the leather and whatnot. But we are talking about the knife, and the knife is, in its own Ukrainian way, a minimalist knife. It's just everything it needs to be and nothing more. You have 1065, I believe it is, or 1066 basic carbon steel, but very well heat treated. It's not a monster of a knife. It's not a quarter-inch thick blade. No, these are not American knives. These are Ukrainian knives. So they want to maximize what you get with the minimal amount of material, but without compromising on the things they're not willing to do so. You have a full tang blade, right? Making it pretty strong. It's just a wooden handle, but very well sanded down to the very edge. There's no sharp edges here, anything like that. But wood, carbon steel, heat treated. This thing will rust. This thing will have a patina eventually, but it's a wide blade. It's just a long enough blade. It's a pointy enough blade. It cuts extremely well, very well polished the edge. And again, it's leaning heavily on this idea of a cutting tool, a tough working knife, right? For the price, for the they're not trying to reinvent anything here. It's just a knife, but a well-made, well-thought design in itself. I really like it. I think it's one of the nicer new things that has come up in recent years. And they're doing a bunch of other things. This happens to be the one I like the most. Then here I have the knife I designed myself for Aitor. These are made by Aitor, a brand, a knife manufacturer in Spain. A lot of people don't even know of Aitor. You've probably seen like your Rambo survival knife. Well, the most successful hollow handle survival kit tool thing knife, those happen to be made by Aitor. The Jungle King 1 and Jungle King 2, those are, you know, one of those famous survival knives from the 80s and 90s and whatnot, still around by the way, and there's nothing that compares those knives made by Aitor in Spain to the crap that is basically cloned in China. You see a lot of knives that look like an Aitor with a hollow handle and the kits and whatnot. If it's not made by this company in Spain, then it's not the original thing. And there's a lot of clones and copies out there and counterfeits, so careful with that. But this is the knife I designed for Aitor myself, and of course, because I designed it, this is what I think a survival knife should be. So of course, I feel very strongly about, yeah, this is what I want in a survival knife. I had sort of the design in my head for a long time. Full tang, yes, the thick, solid chunk of steel is definitely here, but at the same time, I'm more leaning towards a big knife. I like bigger knife, but I understand that the compromise between the small knife and the big knife is, well, it's what knives end up being, like with your Glock's knives or with your K-bar knife. If you want a big sword, that's great, but can you actually carry that all day long? Is it even practical? That's why we end up with medium size, you know, the intermediate thing. But since I have to do that compromise, the way I think about that is, okay, I have to make it shorter, but I'll still put that steel here. It's gonna give me that recurved shape, gives me more metal and increases the chopping capability of the knife beyond what you should expect for it because of the length, right? So a little bit shorter, but enough metal so as to get more of that choppy motion there. If you think of the tracker, the Tops tracker knife, those are gimmicky. I don't like the idea of having, this part here and then a sharp curve and, you know, it's an edge there or something. No. I like the continuity, the curve. Not only that, this gives me a longer cutting line, right, than if it was straight. If it was straight, I would have less cutting distance covered in the edge. If I put something here and I drag all the edge, it's going to be longer than if it was a straight edge. If I need to push, pull, just use this part right here, which naturally is a little bit more protected from all the choppy and hitting the dirt and whatnot. This will naturally develop its own, you know, a little bit more of a sharper edge. And honestly, as time goes by, and I have another one that I actually use quite a bit, this is more of a display piece for me. I think this is the number, oh no, it's not the number one, but yeah, still low marking 84. I really like this design. Some people think, oh, the recurve edge is more difficult to sharpen. Not in my experience. I've never had a problem sharpening with any ceramic rod or any of these sticks from Victorinox or a bunch of our knives. And by the way, Victorinox, legendary knife manufacturer, maybe more on the pocket knife sort of thing. So that's why I'm not including it here. But anyway, Aitor, and definitely the design I made. This is, by the way, N680 Weller steel made in what was it, Netherlands, is it? No, Boller, Sweden, right? Anyway, very good steel and a knife I'm super proud of. There you go. Again, all of these knives, I'll leave links there below. If you want to buy it, by all means, go nuts on that. The Terava Skrama 200. Anyway, knives made in Finland. Maybe not the first thing you think of in terms of European knives, and it does have this reminiscent thing of one of the Rambo movies. I mean, it's a traditional European knife at the end of the day. The idea of just cutting the tip like that, it gives you a nice fine tip. It is a little bit of a beast of a knife. Again, it's not as long but if you want really, there's a 220 model that's even longer. With that, I start looking at it like you might as well go with a Tramontina machete. And in that case, it's not even made in Europe. It's going to be a Brazilian machete. But for knife, this is still, I consider it maybe a little bit of a bigger knife, but a knife nonetheless. And you have mass, and you have carbon steel, and you have this natural burn finish of the manufacturing process, obviously saying, I don't care. It's a tool. If it rusts, deal with it, put some oil on it, and grow a pair, Comes with a great sheath, by the way. And well, the Aitor that I did also comes with a Jungle King sheet. This is reinforced nylon injected something. It is one of the things I learned. I had no idea. These are extremely expensive to make the molds for. That's why you usually don't see many of these things. But yeah, taking advantage of this existing model and making it work for the knife was a great thing to have. Now here we have a combination of leather and plastic. So you have the leathery feel, which is awesome, and you have this very nice sheath. And you have the plastic on the inside. So basically the best of both worlds go into this knife, and you can order it very much Finland style. You can order it without the sheath. I don't care about the sheath. I'll make my own. Okay, just buy a knife. They'll just send you a knife. No problem with that. But since I was doing that already, might as well go. So it's a big knife. It's a solid chunk. It's more leaning towards the choppiness, If you want a knife that is just about cutting, you go with this. If you want a knife that's also kind of like an axe and a hatchet, maybe you go with this thing. And it makes sense for Finland, for the forests, all of the wood and all of that stuff. A nice, solid, big knife that has some serious wood processing capabilities. Or just, in terms of a survival knife, a nice big knife that can take a heck of a beating. It's carbon steel, very well heat treated. It is full tang all the way here, even though it does not reach the edge. And the handle is surprisingly comfortable. I'm a little bit surprised that it would be nice to have either having it be a little bit thinner or maybe have a little bit more mass here, a little bit of more, a little bit fat here would fill at least my hand a little bit better. But I'm not complaining. It's one of the most comfortable knives I have, so still pretty good. Great knife. These I like these 5. Let me know what you think, if you agree with me or you think I'm forgetting something. And before you mention those, there's 3 here honorable mentions. The Peltonen, JP Peltonen M95 Ranger from the Finland Armed Forces. Fantastic knife. Why didn't I include it? Because I think it's basically like a big Mora, right? If you want to go this way, or at the end of the day, what is it exactly that this knife does better than the Glock knife? Well, it cuts better. It's definitely gonna have a better edge as you keep on using it. But given that this is a military knife, I think that the Glock is a better military knife than the M95, especially when you consider the price. I mean, these are a little bit more expensive. You can buy 3 Glock knives for the price of this one. Is it really that much more knife that you get? Again, it is a very good knife. It's not as tough as a Glock though, even though this one is a better cutting tool. But if I'm looking at a cutting knife, maybe I just go with a Mora, Let's quickly go to the next one, a knife that I really like a lot as well, the Aitor. This is the German manufacturer that makes the knife for the German military. These guys make some excellent knives. Some of the designs, though, are a little bit overbuilt, a little bit heavy, a little bit way too complex. This is more simple and I like it more. I was actually working with Aitor to make a knife, and the guy I was talking with actually left the company and I lost touch with him, but I would love to make a knife for these guys. If you're listening, Aitor, just, reply to the conversation that we have in Instagram and let's have something done. They make a very nice handle. The steel, though, I just hate the steel on this one in particular. The steel seems to be very difficult to get a nice edge on. It's always almost there, but not quite so. And I combine that with the price. I just feel that basically here I have better options. Another one, super famous knife manufacturer from Europe, the Extrema Ratio from Italy. These guys make some excellent, beautiful knives. And this is just one of the many. What is it about it? Well, some of their designs are excellent. Some are a little bit more quirky, but then you have this stuff. You have the weird edges, you have the aesthetics about it getting in the way of how much sense it makes or not. The handle was actually designed with some university study about anatomy and whatnot. It's not the worst part, but there's no explanation for this or these sharp edges. And again, it seems kind of quirky at times. They have some models better than others, and you combine that with a very high price, just not for me. Guys, if you want to learn more about all this stuff, you have the channel. Have a great day. Take care.